So there's lots of cheering. So tomorrow people are going to be in a good mood. If you think in terms of the local by-election, then that might affect the turnout positively. People are feeling good and happy, and they're feeling good and happy about England. So when we started this off, I mean, winning Makerfield was just a pipe dream, and of course it is, isn't it? I mean, John Cotton's dead, but beating Burnham with the restore victory would, I mean, Starmer couldn't hang on, could he? Um, I mean, when Lowe is sort of talking about the death penalty, I mean, it's a case of getting out of the way, isn't it? If you realise the surge is going in that direction, and there's a real case of the ultimate punishment being meted out to the people who've done this to the British, then that focuses the mind. It's a case in terms of because Lindsay's idea was as soon as the bureaucrats start throwing each other under the bus for intersectionality, it'll start falling apart. So Birmingham, of course, is a revolting critical social justice factory. Effectively, it was taken over by activists in 2020, and the idea was people like me would have been flushed out in the initial sort of hazing through the technology. But these morons didn't understand who they were dealing with. So morons. When you're sitting in a Tesco's car park, lined up with trolleys, after you're clearly on a war footing, and you're expecting somebody to come out of somewhere, noting you're quite large and possibly draft you into whatever war we appear to be engaged in 2020. But whatever happened, of course, the British were activated, weren't they? If that's happening to your country, then obviously you're thinking about some potential conflicts. So you've been preparing for it, and one of those preparing for conflict is observing the city of Birmingham and the activists gaining access to the organisation using the technology and using it to attack people. So you don't have to be a genius to work out the long-term implications of that. So you get out of the city to a safe distance. Again, for the record, still do the job quite happily. We could do it from anywhere in the country. We could do it safely. We could follow the existing Equality Act. But again, there's an ethical concern, isn't it? You're essentially creating an army to attack the British in Birmingham, because a lot of Pakistani Muslims are part of your housing stock. When you've got one of the senior ones, who I don't know if we house this guy or not, but he's abusing corporate communications after Southport, you've got to do something about that. You're repeatedly saying to the HR department, and again sensibly leaving it till afterwards, that this needs to be dealt with, and it isn't. So again, the organisation is at this point just gone feral. It is just attacking people randomly, and because it's being supported by all the central government patronage networks stuff, it's allowed to keep going. So Restore would gut that effectively and say, I'm sorry, there's no more money left, please leave, or pay for people to leave via the airport and clear the city out effectively. So you could, Birmingham would essentially be a sort of mega city one, Judge Dredd style deportations hub. Very, very unpleasant and violent, I'm sure, for a bit on the way out and getting out of there. But it's a credible plan to get the country back. So again, you look at Lowe's master deportations documents. He wants 20,000 properties, I think, or something. We've got 54,000 in Birmingham if the tenants can be moved to suitable accommodation, and we can police it with drones. Again, the technology is already there. It's just getting power. The British can bodge this stuff together. The fact we haven't got an army is not actually a problem, because we're the British. We've gone through a very strange period of time where the continent's been invaded after Libya fell apart, clearly. But now the British people left aren't dumb, and we kind of see how the world is going. So we're organising a resistance, aren't we? So Restore is, say what you like, it's full of intelligent people, and it's also full of ex-army, isn't it? And ex-police. So people in Birmingham think I'm sort of would not be amongst these people, because these people don't know who I am, do they? They don't know the family has a military background on mother's side. They're so dumb that they weren't interested in who I was intellectually, so they have no idea who I was on the father's side. So they've got this absurd position at the moment where the election tomorrow, and regardless of what happens, Deborah Gentieri is apparently absolving herself and the federal legislative manager of prosecution after the grooming gangs report. So they try to create a fictitious bureaucrat who constructively dismisses me and says, "Oh, you can appeal against a non-person if you'd like to." The same day the grooming gangs report was published, we're again saying repeatedly via email, which you have to reply to in writing. It's not just when you say reply in writing, you have to actually respond to what I'm saying. You don't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm offended," or "I'm not going to respond." You're not allowed to do that by law, morons. But now we've got the technology in the modern world. You think, I think I'm sitting here in a pub, and you think from booking out of Birmingham from November till now, and the primitive state you were back then, and now we've got this thing. I mean, this thing is like 1,400 quid or something. It's probably on par with the laptop. Technology's moved on quite a way. The technology to support it is amazing, and I can just upload this kind of stuff. When the email chain is going through Birmingham now, they should have been dealing with the transcription of the voice recordings, but because they're bent and stupid, they don't think they have to. But we've now got live action video of pointing out to people in the city of Birmingham and Birmingham City Council tenants that if you're a Birmingham City Council tenant at the time of hearing this, your organisation, your housing, is run based on quote unquote anti-racism, because Diane Jones, senior manager, was threatening me, and there's a technical matter. We held off possession orders for several years because I was doing them. I assure you, we're in a quote-unquote anti-racist court, so we should actually following the law properly. But because this stuff is coming through corporate communications in a legal department, it corrupts the entire legal process. So if you're receiving something from your employer, there's a sort of tacit, you've got to say something based on the law. You have been for several years, and the office of the city solicitor is bent, so it's fairly obvious that you had no security. That was confirmed by the behaviour of everybody in Birmingham. So it is now just a case of police turning up because they're outside civilization in Birmingham. Effectively, there is nobody in Birmingham who apparently is accountable to British law. Our hypothesis on the way out of Birmingham was correct. The police just lost any kind of ability to maintain order. So you are reduced to avoiding the city limits at the moment, and effectively sort of shelling them from Edinburgh, trying to fetch police, who ultimately are going to have to go and arrest John Cotton and find Chris Naylor for what they were doing in 2020. If Cotton thinks he's going to get away with that, he's delusional, isn't he? Look at the state of the place. Look at all the violence around the city that Cotton is responsible for because of his behaviour. So, again, the election is tomorrow, so we don't know what the result is going to be. I'm recording this the evening prior, but again, Lowe wants the death penalty, and it's a referendum as well. So that's something to consider in terms of proceedings, because you've got to think, in a by-election, it doesn't actually matter in reality. I mean, there are political tea leaves as to what would Burnham do in a Burnham victory and take over for Starmer, but of course they're delusional, aren't they? They're Galilean parties, so the country will carry on collapsing regardless of who's running it. And Starmer's benefit was his psychopathy. I mean, even Burnham is as nuts as Starmer, but it just doesn't work. So it's really down to Storr versus us. So you may as well vote with your heart if you're hearing this and thinking about what to do, because the Yarmouth has won because people turned out. Yeah. So we're coming into this weird dystopia, but Starmer sort of squeaks in based on the apathy and vote, which of course is engineered. It's a demoralisation strategy. So it's if you're being demoralised, that's a bad sign. But we've got at the moment a beachhead, so you've got to think there is no reason we can't win this. and what an earthquake that would be. And even if you fail, at least you can say, you know, you're part of the army that had to go. You can say you went down to the home of English socialism and tried to give Andy Burnham a kicking. But yeah, may you live in interesting times. Of course, there's a Chinese curse, and I see why. But at least you're alive now. We know where the battle lines are. So the Civil War panel in the Battle of Ideas, I think the panel conclusion was there was no impending civil war because we didn't know who the belligerents were. But again, it's fairly obvious in Birmingham. Again, they're locking us out of meetings, which again we can't do in a compliance section. You're not actually allowed to do that. But because of the gang culture within the organisation, because of the way the technology has evolved, orders sort of broken down. So if you're basically at Council 10, there's zero chance of you getting a fair. The core process is being fair. The only possible way to do it at the moment is me logging onto the laptop, which I've still got with me, and doing the job, because I couldn't weigh up the QA considerations within the world of the laptop. But of course, I've got the intelligence to reverse engineer the quality ideology and just not go along with it. Plus, of course, you've got the enough intelligence to look at the clinical literature, so you can do sort of case reviews around illness, that kind of stuff. So they haven't got anybody in the department who could do the job as well as I could, just demonstrably. But it's worse than that. So it's not that the department is just badly run, the department is unsafely run. So again, I was saying to them internally, no, we can't put these orders through. You're getting sort of blank stare and a giggle. Well, if you're in that kind of department, you're behaving like that, I want you out of it. I'm not, you know, firstly, I'm not putting it with a mental load to back cases back from someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But I mean, just the general attitude within the department towards what are compliance issues. It's not optional. It's not our properties. You must follow EQA, which involves looking after people with disabilities, and once again, information on. The neurology is now so common, I mean, it's all over the place, isn't it? There's no excuse not to know this stuff, and there's also zero excuse not to comply. So if the city of Birmingham, as it was just abusing people for cheap labour, effectively, many of my former colleagues were poor women who were constructively dismissed by, again, sort of predatory woman who kicked them in the face, but because they weren't intelligent to deal with a tank-sized man who's got my intelligence, they're just sort of flailing around behind laptops at the moment. But I mean, the benefit of the store is they're a huge unit, so again, once physical human starts sniffing around in Birmingham and interviewing people like Argentieri or Southall or Jones or any of these characters under caution, quite quickly police can be summoned in units to see people go to jail. But I say Makerfield is the priority tomorrow, obviously. But again, for the recording, I mean, we've been trying to get police since November last year. Birmingham is just refusing. Once again, this is not optional. Again, people are going to be going to jail based on serious misconduct policy, attempting to pervert the course of justice. Just simple logic at this point, isn't it? So the refusal of people in Birmingham is now a sort of physics puzzle. When did the first human pick up a paw or press 101 on a phone or whatever they're going to do and get through to West Midlands police officer, who then contact me so we can discuss obviously apprehending criminals in Birmingham, because once again, logically, I can't be there physically because he's not physically safe. So I'm outside of Birmingham for personal security because the organisation isn't bothered by personal security. I've got to do that myself. We've had to do it previously for colleagues, and again, the culture was we look after each other. There was never any official security because the management culture was too stupid and corrupt. But yeah, if Birmingham thinks that. The level of delusion in that city at the moment is just off the wall, and all of it would be resolved if they would behave like adults. but because there's nobody left in the organisation who will take any kind of accountability, you've now got this sort of Banana Republic stuff that's currently going on. Um, but one of the things, of course, you realise is it's they are so small-minded that they don't actually know the country they live in or the sort of people they were dealing with in that city. So, it's a very bad idea to mess with the Irish in a city like Birmingham. If you're going to attack our children, there's going to be a response, and we're not going to tolerate that behaviour for a single second. So, even a children's story, the head of McGraths will quite happily burn down their entire career and everything else to make sure that is apologised for, and the people involved in that are dealt with by the organisation. Because this is a British public body, we follow British government standards, which include Nolan, which of course does not involve behaving like that. So we will get this off then as soon as the upload finishes. But again, I'm really lucky to be able to live in, as we do now, to have the technology to just blast this by satellite into Birmingham effectively. Because the problem is, unless they can physically find me, we can do this the rest of our lives. Forensically analyse the service. You can contact me if you've got a problem with Birmingham's court service. We'll happily appear in court by video link to explain the sort of general corruption and incompetence in the department. We'll do it pro bono. That's not a problem. We'll just tear Birmingham apart until the last Hegelian has been defeated. And it resembles the kingdom of God once again. There we go. That's a positive thought to leave that one on. But yes, I'm looking forward to seeing the result tomorrow. So good luck to the residents of Wigan.